Using the Connect tool can alleviate frustration and save you time. If you are doing any sort of intricate design or large project, it is definitely something that you're going to want to have in your tool belt. If you stay to the end of the video, I'm going to show you a couple of funky connections you can do in Studio with the Connect tool. Another thing about the Connect tool is sometimes Snap does not always work perfectly and your connections can be off by a little. The Connect tool can alleviate that problem, which is very helpful. It can also be used to accurately place rods, axles, hinges, and ball joints. So it's really a versatile tool to have. Okay, let's get started. You will find the Connect tool on the upper left-hand side of the screen with all of the other tools. I would suggest assigning the Connect tool to a hotkey because if you're like me, you're going to be using it a lot and it's just going to make it much quicker for you to access it. When you take the Connect tool and you click on a brick, you can see a whole bunch of connection points available. So we have the studs on the top, the anti-studs, and the tubes. When we click on our brick and click a receiver and then click on the target, the two bricks will lock together where that connection was made. It is similar for a submodel. We will click on it and you will see that each individual brick shows us all the connection points within it. If we select a receiver point again and a stud where we want it to go to, the whole submodel will shift over. As I've mentioned, this is extremely useful when dealing with large submodels that you are trying to maneuver into position. Submodels can take up a lot of memory and be really laggy on your machine sometimes. So this is a way to save you lots of time and aggravation when you're trying to move around submodels. Sometimes it can be really overwhelming to see all the connection points within a submodel. I would suggest that you zoom in and change the perspective a bit and try to find the connection point that way. If you fail the first time, you can always press Ctrl Z to go back a step and then you can start over from the beginning. It will save you a lot of time to do it that way. Here's another situation that you may find when using the Connect tool is that you have just a huge number of choices, especially on a base plate, and you don't want to count out every single stud when you're trying to place something and then going back and forth until you get it right. So you may want to go and set yourself a register mark so you know exactly where you're going to be placing that piece. To do that, take a plate and move it on to your base plate, and just like a graph, figure out where your XY direction is going to be and where you want the target placed, and you can place the plate right beside where the submodel is going to be going. I would also suggest making the reference plate a nice bright color and highly contrasted against whatever surface you're going to be putting your submodel on so it's easy to spot. One thing to note about the Connect tool that is different from the Snap tool is the Connect tool will not align your bricks, whereas the Snap tool will. I'm going to show you with a couple of plates so you can see what I'm talking about. If we have on the Snap and we're just going to drag one over top of the other, you'll see that the Snap makes it want to line up perfectly. If we do the same thing with the Connect tool, it will keep its orientation. This is both a good and a bad thing. Sometimes you don't want that brick moving in any direction. You want to keep its same alignment. Therefore, the connect tool is better in that respect. If you do want to line them up though, you will have to rotate your object so that it's in the same orientation as the receiver before you use the connect tool and move it. There has been a suggestion on the studio forums for 2-point connections where you would first make your connection as normal, but then you could assign a second connection to allow you to line up the pieces. And that would be handy if that gets implemented. Okay, so I talked about using the connection tool on rods, axles, and other things, so I'm going to show you that now. When we click on a rod with the connect tool, you can see we have a whole bunch of cylinders, and we also have these little squares on the end. So these little cylinders are placed along the shaft, and the squares will fit into a stud hole or into an actual stud depending on what the part is. Inside of a clip, we have a couple of spots that we can connect rods to. Along the axles, we have, again, the cylinders running along the length of the shaft. On a pin, we have them as well, and we also have little squares where we can connect into anti-studs. In a Technic brick, we have the cylinders and where we can connect into regular studs. And with the axle, we just have the cylinders along the shaft. With the ball joints, we have one at the end of the ball joint and one in the receiver. And with the hinges, we have one on the tip of the hinge and then again into the receiver. That's very straightforward, but I want to show you how you can use those little cylinders to accurately place your axles and rods. Click on the rod, and then it's simply a matter of the same as clicking on the stud and anti-stud, clicking on which one of these clip areas that you want to put your rod into. If the rod is not exactly where you want it and you want to shift it over one way or another a little bit, if you click on the rod and then click on this little minifig hand up here, select the XYZ tool, it will bring this selection tool up. Set your grid to the lowest setting you can, and then you will be able to just grab that arrow and drag it a little bit one way or another, or you can input the values by clicking in this area and manually inputting them. The axle is the same thing. We can click on the axle, click on the connect tool, where we want the axle to be, and then where we want our axle to go within our brick. You can do the same thing with a pin. I know it's an illegal technique, but you can put a pin in only a little ways into the stud hole, so leaving a little bit exposed. Now is the time of the video where I show you a couple of those little funky techniques I mentioned. So the first one is something that you can do with real bricks that is a bit of a challenge to do in studio, but with the connect tool, it's actually a really simple thing to do. So I've seen this technique a few times in different builds. Taking one clip and placing it perpendicular to another and then fitting them in, and you'll notice in studio it doesn't do that very well, but by using the connect tool you can do it. So go ahead and grab yourself a rod and put that into one of the clips, and then what you're going to do is connect the first clip to that rod so that it is level with the other clip, and then you can rotate the first clip and then delete the rod. And there we have that connection. Really simple to do if you're using the Connect tool. The next one I want to show you is how to get a rod to go through the middle of a Technic hole. If we use the Connect tool, it doesn't work. But if we grab a pin and then we use the Connect tool to push the rod through the pin and then delete the pin, we have the rod going directly through the center of the pinhole. I'm sure you can find lots of other uses for the Connect tool. It is, as I said, a very versatile tool, so go and play around with it and see what you can come up with. In the next video, I'm going to be taking a first look at the 3D sculpture tool. I am part of the beta, so I am excited to play with that and show you the features of that tool so far. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share it out to anybody that you think would be interested. Have a fantastic day. Keep dreaming of bricks. Bye-bye.